Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. Today, PC hardware companies have finally learned their lesson. EVGA shows off their AMD motherboard, Ryzen 6000 is a beast, and Intel's 12900K is set to turn the market on its head. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, PC hardware companies are finally learning from this shortage. Inventory is coming, and it could even prevent future shortages. In a new report from John Petty Research, they claim that, quote, PC gaming hardware companies are reviewing their just-in-time strategies and beginning to adopt just-in-case inventory levels. As a result, we expect inventory and sales of high-end products to grow dramatically in the coming years. As Tom's Hardware points out, one of the reasons supply has been so constrained is how reserved PC hardware companies are when it comes to inventory, production, etc. They do this so they don't get left with a ton of stock that no one wants. The issue is that demand in the PC market has skyrocketed, so hardware makers are finally adopting better strategies. This could have a huge effect on potential future shortages and really just stock in general. Ultimately, it's great news for the PC gaming market as a whole. I can't afford this. What am I doing? Forget it. What's going on?
Save money with honey.
What was that?
Use honey.
But it'll just be another bill.
No, it's free.
That's right. Today's sponsor is the #1 online shopping tool in America, Honey, and it's free. Simply shop like you normally would, and Honey scours the internet to find promo codes, and it applies them for you. In fact, on average, Honey finds discount codes of 18%. Plus, Honey works on tons of your favorite sites. So don't wait! You can add it to your browser for free by visiting joinhoney.com/gamermeld today. And thanks to Honey for sponsoring this video. Next up for today, if you followed the channel, I recently shared a teaser from EVGA that made it clear they plan to make motherboards for AMD CPUs. And that's a big deal because it shows just how important AMD has gotten since the launch of their first-gen Ryzen CPUs. Well, in a new post from EVGA's overclocking partner, he shared an image of a motherboard with dark written on it and the Ryzen logo. He also wrote the red pill, meaning this is definitely their upcoming AM4 based motherboard. Unfortunately, we only have this image of the back, but this really is a big deal. And I have to admit that it's interesting to see the Ryzen logo within EVGA's own dark logo because it really shows just how serious they are about supporting AMD CPUs. Ultimately, this is a big win for AMD, and it really shows that a second competitor is back. Next up, AMD's upcoming Ryzen 6000 or 7000, whatever Zen 4 ends up being called, is set to be a giant upgrade, even more so than we originally thought. In a new tweet from the very accurate leaker Patrick Schur, he claims that AMD's upcoming Raphael chips or Zen 4 desktop parts are in fact set to come with up to 16 cores. This was shortly after Executable Fix claimed the same thing, so it's effectively confirming it. But Patrick Schur gave us one far more interesting detail. He actually claims that it's set to come with a whopping 170 watt TDP. Now, we did see something similar from Executable Fix in the past, but 120 watts was the main possibility. For reference, AMD's 5950X comes with a TDP of 105 watts. That's a 61% increase. And don't forget that these are based on TSMC's 5nm process, so it's even bigger than it looks. Now, one thing at least partially explains this. Remember that we've seen roadmaps claiming Raphael is essentially set to come with Navi 2, meaning it's going to include an iGPU. With that said, I highly doubt it takes up 65 watts, meaning if that's true, AMD is using some of that wattage for things like higher clocks. And once again, it's on 5nm. Basically, AMD's Zen 4 based CPUs are likely set to get a huge performance jump, not including any IPC increase from architecture or node. That's big. With that said, it has to be big with this huge story on Intel's upcoming 12th gen Alder Lake CPUs. For those who don't know, Alder Lake is set to be a huge departure from traditional desktop CPUs, specifically that it uses two different types of cores. A powerful higher clock core for big tasks, and a more efficient core for things like background tasks. The architecture was originally designed for mobile chips by ARM to help with battery life, and that makes sense. The use in desktops has been a bit confusing though, as plenty of its tasks can utilize all of those cores. Plus you don't have to worry about battery life or anything like that. Well, let's just say I'm not worried anymore, as a new qualification sample was just sent out, and the performance is incredible. The new leak was originally posted on the NGA forums and later by Video Cards, and according to the leak, a new qualification sample was just sent out of the upcoming 12,900K. That sample comes with a single-core turbo clock of 5.3 GHz on the big core and 3.9 on the small. But of course, frequency is irrelevant to performance without knowing how the architecture performs. Remember that Alder Lake is set to finally move from Intel's 14nm process and onto the company's 10nm SuperFin. Anyway, according to the leaker, when using the earlier engineering sample's R20 score as a reference and adding about what it should get with the higher clocks of the new sample, he estimates that it would score around 11,300. And yes, that's just an estimate, but hold on. For one, higher clocks typically scale very well in Cinebench, and second, that doesn't account for any new engineering that was done between samples. And even if the score is lower, that's completely fine, because at 11,300, that actually crushes the 5950X at 10,400. And even if it just got what the quality sample had, you have to remember that this is likely set to compete with the 5900X, not the 5950X. Sure, they have the same number of cores, but those small cores don't really count. You can see that the 12,700K still has 8 big cores but fewer small cores, with the 12,600K moving down to 6 big cores, etc. So given this is right, the 12,900K is set to challenge the 5900X, and it absolutely crushes that, but even has the potential to crush the 5950X. Basically, Intel's next-gen CPUs are looking to be a massive jump in performance that could have AMD scrambling to release their Zen 4 parts sooner than expected. So while that does it for today, are you excited for Intel's next-gen parts, or do you think that AMD's Ryzen 6000 will be better? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to save money with Honey down in the description. And as always, have a great day!